Evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter. It's 7 o'clock on Monday, September 26th. We are now called to order. Would all rise for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We all have a copy of the packet before us. Are there any revisions or corrections to the packet as distributed? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Next up, we have the minutes of the previous meeting from September 12th. Those are on pages 5 to 8 of the packet. Are there any revisions or corrections to the minutes as distributed? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next up, we have visitors' comments on the agenda. The first item is a scheduling of visitor comments on agenda items. Are there any members of the audience who'd like to address the council on any agenda item? Hearing none, we will move on to general visitor comments. And under general visitor comments, we have police department oaths of office tonight.
So, Madam Mayor, we have 3 folks that we'd like to swear in, and so I think our plan will be, if it's okay with you and the council, we'll have them come up one by one, and then after all of them have taken their oath, then we'll have a short recess so families can take pictures and celebrate a really important event for them and our community.
Absolutely. All right. Without further ado.
All right. Josh, if I could have you come up. Sergeant Clacius. I think we'll do it right here to start. All right, Josh, we'll have you raise your right hand. And you don't have to repeat after me, but wait for direction. Do you, Joshua Clacius, solemnly swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of Minnesota, and that you'll faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of patrol sergeant in and for the city of St. Peter, to which office you have been appointed to the best of your judgment and ability? If so, say, I will.
I will.
All right, congratulations. Give him a hand. Give him a hand. Next, we have Officer Flim. Okay, we'll have you raise your right hand if you can. Do you, Peter Flim, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of police officer for the city of St. Peter, for which office you have been appointed to the best of your judgment and ability? If so, answer, I will.
I will.
All right, fantastic. Congratulations. All right, Tyler, we'll have you raise your right hand. Do you, Tyler Hokinson, solemnly swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of police officer for the city of St. Peter, to which office you've been appointed, and you'll do it to the best of your judgment and ability? If so, answer, I will.
I will.
All right, excellent.
We are going to recess at this time. It is 7:03 p.m. We have concluded our recess. The time is 7:08 p.m. on September 26th, 2022. Our next item of business is general visitor comments. Is there any member of the audience who would like to address the council on any matter whatsoever? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins on page 12 of the packet and concludes with a resolution on page 27. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the following items. The following election judge appointments are approved for the November 8th general election, and that list of judges is included on page 27 of the packet. The following employee appointment: Carson Kennedy, infrastructure technician at $22.90 per hour, and the schedule of disbursements for September 8th, 2022 through September 21st, 2022. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Lang.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Rutherford.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next, we move on to unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is the adoption of a resolution accepting 2021 Clark Street Utility and Surface Improvements Project. Hi, Pete.
Madam Mayor and City Council, as you remember, back in July of 2021, we started the process of construction for utilities and road improvements for work that was being done on the west side of Nicollet Avenue called Clark Street. The plan was to install about 1,300 feet of sanitary sewer, which went approximately 400 feet to the west of Nicollet Avenue, and then 500 feet of water main from Nicollet Avenue going west, and 500 feet of storm sewer, 30-inch storm sewer, that went from Nicollet Avenue west. We also installed curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Then installed a roadway and made the project complete. As you remember, the project was awarded to Raw Construction in the amount of $458,233.65. The project finished slightly under that at about $434,549.15. Roughly under cost of the planned cost was about $23,684.50. Funding was in the respective budgets. We also had some assessments with the developer that will be paid back on this project in the amount of $260,317. There's a map on page 30 if there are any questions. Resolution waits for you on page 31. Staff's recommending acceptance of the project and authorization to make final payment in the amount of $4,939.49.
Thank you, Pete. Are there any questions? Daryl?
Will there be a final assessment hearing for that, or is this already, has that already taken place?
I don't believe so because it was done during a development agreement. Councilmember Pettis, so what happens there is that they've already agreed to that number, and we'll do the cost sharing breakdown and work with them on that final number.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing no further questions, the resolution before us on page 31 of the packet is for acceptance of a 2021 Clark Street Utility and Surface Improvement Project and authorizing final payment to the contractor. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Lang.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Rita.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Moving on to new business. First up, adoption of a resolution adopting 2022 preliminary tax levy payable in 2023. Hi, Sally.
You want to start or you want me to?
Sally, why don't, the introduction to the council would be is that you've had a number of times to look over this, and the council certainly has been very thorough in its review of the budget. From a staff perspective, our goal too is ensure it's your budget and it's prioritized in ways that you want to see resources spent within our community. And so Sally's here to provide for this. We are not approving the budget tonight. We are approving a preliminary levy. And so just want to be clear about that. We won't ask you for final budget until we get towards the end of the year, but this is the preliminary levy, and this is what will go on tax notices to folks within the next 30, 45 days, whatever it is, as they come out. So Sally, I'll get out of the way and let you take it away from there.
Mayor and Llewellyn City Council. As Todd said, we're here tonight to approve the 2023 preliminary tax levy. The memo is found on pages 32 through 39 in the packet, and there's detailed tables, graphs, and detailed budgets on pages 40 to 134. The preliminary levy for 2022 certification and 2023 taxable rate needs to be certified before September 30th, 2022 by state statute. The final levy amount must be approved on or before December 31st of 2022. The preliminary, or the final levy amount can be lowered, but it cannot go above what you approved tonight. The projected tax capacity increase from 21 to 22 for the city was 17%, and will generate about $599,058 of additional tax revenue if the levy rate stayed the same. But as we discussed throughout, we're going to, the total levy increase of what we're proposing tonight for the preliminary is $300,488, or 8.52%, to meet our needs. The city property tax levy rate will be reducing from 51.57 in 2022 to 47.84 is what we're looking at. Just so you know, if a $10,000 change in rate is about 0.12 on the tax levy. General fund budget and fund balances is found on page 41 in summary. The 2023 budget is not yet balanced. There's a net operating loss of $389,120. The 2021 year-end reserve balance ended the year at 54.9%, or $4,967,841. And as you know, our goal for that fund is to be between 35% and 50%. So we're slightly over it this year. Right now, our projected year end for 2022 is at $4,815,330, or 51.6. The proposed budget of $4,231,210 is a decrease, or to 46.3%, still well within our reserve target balance. General fund expenditures increased $283,385, or 3.13% over 2022 budget. The main drivers in this is wages, employee costs, and medical insurance. Employee costs, we're budgeting right around a 3% increase year over year, and then health insurance is at 7.5%. So that's driving most of the increase that we're seeing right now. We are anticipating a 2023 equipment certificate. The list is on page 36 of the memo for $660,000. A 295 tandem truck purchase for streets. It's a replacement. A chiller for the community center for $275,000. Community center is 20 plus years old. The chiller is about at its useful life, so we're starting to see repairs and maintenance needed on the building. And then there's $90,000 in there for pool painting, for pool maintenance done. So budget tools, we're still transferring 6.5% of enterprise funds, which are water, wastewater, stormwater, and electric, to the general fund. Local government aid is only increasing 1.3%, or $42,733. And as you know, we have a lot of tax exempt property in St. Peter, so we rely on local government aid to help us. So it is not keeping pace with inflation. So that's where we're at. The library budget, we are allocating an additional $78,568 of additional levy. Again, it's a 20-year-old building, and the funds are needed just to keep with maintenance and some other things going on. So as I said, the general fund indicates the fund balance of a decrease of $152,511, and reserves to go down from 51.6 down to 49.1. The preliminary fund balance shows a projected decrease of $120,867 from 2022. In summary, we're proposing a preliminary tax levy that would decrease your projected tax rate from 51.57 to 47.84. Based on gross levy, it'll be a gross increase of $488 or 8.52%. So what that means is for an average property owner in St. Peter, if their property value has not changed from 2022 on a $150,000 house, their home property tax would decrease $47.09 for the city portion of the taxes. They still have the state, the school, and the county on top of it, but theirs would decrease from the city. So we're asking you to approve the resolutions on page 135 and 136, approving the preliminary levy for 2022, collectible taxes in 2023 in the amount of $3,825,973. Questions?
Questions for Sally? Brett?
Not a question, just a comment. Just wanted to say, I've told you this previously. Thank you for the adjustments you made this year, incorporating last year's budgeted amounts too, so that we compare the budgets and actuals. That did help us. That at least helped me in doing analyzing it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Madam Mayor, if I can, folks that are interested in this, there are a number of opportunities to take a look at it, and this is included in the council packet that's online. So if anybody's interested in the budget, the line-by-line budget and how the levy looks and some of the other information that we put, some of the tables and graphs that Sally puts together, we'd really encourage you to check out our website, go to this council meeting packet, and you'll be able to see everything that the city council sees.
Thank you. Hearing no further questions or discussion, the resolution before us begins on page 135 of the packet. It's a resolution adopting the preliminary 2022 tax levy collectible in 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpston?
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenthal?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye. The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Next up, under new business, adoption of a resolution calling for a public hearing on the creation of tax increment financing district number 1-25. Hi, Shannon.
Hello, Mayor. Good evening, members of the council, Mayor. Have a letter in your packet outlining a request for tax increment assistance that the city's received from APX Construction Group, who's proposing to construct a 60-unit multifamily housing project adjacent to the Hy-Vee property. APX Group has indicated that the provision of tax increment financing assistance is necessary to implement the project as proposed. As we've discussed in the past, tax increment financing is an economic development tool that captures new property taxes associated with new construction that occurs after a TIF district is created. So in this instance, we have property that's presently valued for tax purposes at $200,000. Pays roughly $5,000 in taxes per year that will continue to go to the city, county, and school district after a tax increment financing district is created. The new 60-unit apartment project is projected to have a value of $7,515,200 as estimated by the county assessor. That will create $93,940 in new taxable tax capacity that will be captured within the TIF district, which means the property taxes associated with that new tax base will be collected by the county and distributed to the city in the form of tax increment. What the developer is asking is that 90% of that revenue that the city derives from that increase in market value be reimbursed to them over a period of 12 years. And that 90%, I have a typo in my letter, is $1,375,000, not $325, $1,375,471. And so that's the subsidy that is being requested by APX that you would be asked to consider following the public hearing that would be held on the creation of this TIF district. By participating in tax increment financing, the developer is agreeing to take 20% of the units during the life of the subsidy and making those available to folks at 50% of area median income by family size. To give you some sense for what that means, I printed it off for 2022. It applies each year and changes each year. It's set by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. But for us, a one-person family would be at $31,500 or less. Two people, $36,000, three, $40,500, four, $45,000, and so on. So 12 of the units, 12 of the 60 units have to be made available to folks that meet or are below those income thresholds by family size. So a portion of the subsidy is making units available for folks in those income ranges. Ultimately, the developer is also using a subsidy like this to mitigate some risk associated with entering the market with a new product and trying to lease it up in a timely fashion so that they can be profitable. But at the end of the day, what we're getting for it is the housing, enrollment in the school district, and we're getting some affordable units made available in the community. The action that's before you tonight is to call the public hearing. We're not negotiating the terms this evening, but I think it's important that you understand what's being requested and what you're going to be asked to consider when we do hold the public hearing. That would be scheduled for November 14th, and at that point, a tax increment plan would be presented to the council for your review, which establishes a budget for this TIF district. And ultimately following it, you'd be asked to consider a resolution that adopts the TIF plan and authorizes execution of a development agreement that provides the assistance, most likely in the form that's being requested. Copies of the tax increment plan will be sent to the county and the school district, and they'll be invited to attend the hearing as well and participate in the conversation. Typically, we don't hear a lot in a formal setting, but if you have questions from county commissioners or school board members, we're happy to address those in advance of the hearing. So with that, I'm more than happy to answer questions regarding the action before you to call for a public hearing.
Thank you very much. Carrie?
I know we're here to approve a public hearing, but I had some questions
Sure.
regarding the income restrictions. So does that last for the duration of the, when we're capturing the tax increments, or is it until it's paid off in 12 years, or paid
12
to the
years,
developer in
yeah,
12 years?
yeah.
Okay, and then one of my questions related to income restrictions is it seems like there's two different metrics, so medium income by family size, or area median income. So does the developer can request either of those options, or how does that work?
No, it's, there's two different thresholds. I referenced them both in my letter because ultimately the developer could ask for 40% of units at 60% of area median income. We've only had one project in 21 years that has asked for that particular limit. Virtually everybody else has been at 20%, and units at 50% of area median income. And that's one project in all the communities I work in, so it's
Yeah.
Rare to see anybody request that.
Okay.
But it's available under the TIF statute, so to be clear.
And a developer can request that.
They can request anything, because
I
that's
see.
what developers do,
All
so
right. Thank you for explaining that.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Brad?
Question on, so it says there'll be a reimbursement of 90% of the available tax increments. So does that mean on an annual basis, city, county, school district will still collect 10% more off of the tax increment?
No, the city will.
Oh,
The
the
city will retain 10% for administrative purposes. This will exceed your administrative costs by a fair margin. The balance can be used for qualified housing projects in the city. And so if we have other obligations for existing projects, we can use those proceeds to fund those. And we can use proceeds after the 12-year subsidy term is up to also assist those projects. If you'll recall, we've used housing increments from one single-family residential project to assist another single-family residential project in this community a couple of different times. And so it would be available to do that for either rental or single-family projects. Most likely would be a single-family project that would be assisted though.
Daryl?
Increment we're collecting, is that just the city portion, is that the school district and the counties also?
It's the school and counties
So
also.
three then.
Yep. School district funding formula tends to make them whole because ultimately taxes captured in a tax increment district are not considered available tax base when the funding formula is calculated at the state level. So ultimately, they're not penalized for that. And plus, they make money off of enrollment, which tends to be enhanced by projects like this.
Additional questions? Anything you'd want to add, Todd?
No, Madam Mayor, members, again, the resolution's included in your packet on page 139.
Well, I don't hear any questions. Shannon, thank you so much for coming before us and explaining a pretty complicated thing in a very straightforward way. Really appreciate that. The resolution calling for a public hearing on the creation of a tax increment financing district number 1-25 within Municipal Development District number 1 and the adoption of a tax increment financing plan relating thereto is on page 139 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Sherstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Duplat,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, adoption of a resolution approving renewal of Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association safety contract. Pete?
Mayor and members, for over 20 years, the city has been partners with the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association, MMUA. And what they do for us is they provide training and perform training with our staff in order to keep them safe. We have over 42 full-time and numerous number of part-time employees that come in and receive training on a regular basis. The MMUA has been a great partner of ours because they are our outside eyes and ears on what happens in there. They work very hard to protect the employees. We can't be in all places at all times, and so it's really great to have a trained professional out in the field a certain number of hours each month to work with our employees. Our employees have gained confidence in MMUA because of the outstanding training. And the main goal is to be in compliance with OSHA regulations and standards and to get our employees home safely at night. The current contract we're proposing runs from October 1st of 22 to September 30th of 23. Some of the training that our staff receives includes employee right to know, respiratory protection, personal protective equipment, lockout tagout, excavation safety, confined space, and bloodborne pathogens. Our electric crew also receives specialized training on the maintenance and care of our high voltage distribution system and our substations. We do have funding. This is allocated in our regular budgets in general utility and community center budgets. The agreement that we're proposing is on page 143, and the resolution on page 144. We're asking that you execute the agreement.
Any questions for Pete? Carrie?
So we saw a decrease in the contract amount. Is that related to the experience rating going down?
It's not. What it is MMUA changed their formula this year to allocate the exact cost in the areas where they were incurring cost. And so there was a little redistribution amongst numbers and members. And we were one of, I think, 5% that saw a little bit of a reduction, while others saw an increase.
Does experience rating factor into the contract at all?
Go ahead, Todd.
Not into this contract, but experience rating, or what we sometimes call experience mod, is the basis for the level or the amount of work comp dollars we spend within certain segments of your employee base. So as an example, areas like office folks have a very low workers' comp rate, where someone that maybe works out in the field is higher, but the fewer accidents we have, the cheaper our insurance is, our work comp insurance is.
So we might point to the programs and training that they provide as a way of keeping the accidents few.
We have, I think, over the last 20 years, certainly over the last 15 years, have had an experience modification number that is less than 1, and that means we have fewer than average cost accidents. And so that's great. In fact, I think last year we were under 70, we were like 64 or something like that, which is a very, 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 very low number. And this has a lot to do with that.
I think our safety committee and the leadership that's provided by our own employees to answer questions and investigate accidents is the main reason why that number continues to go down.
And is that, those policies are written in the AWARE program, and so
Correct.
it seems like they're following that to a T.
Right. Trying to.
Yeah, thank you.
Emily?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I really value this partnership with MMUA, and thank you, Pete, for all the work that you put into this and keeping our employees safe. I think that's it's really important that we're doing that.
It
And
is.
this outlines a really clear plan for that, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Hearing no further questions, the resolution before us is on page 144 of the packet, authorizing execution of renewal safety contract with MMUA. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpstra.
Aye.
Councilmember Rosebach.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, we have two resolutions. We're going to discuss adoption of resolutions regarding distributed energy resource policy and formula. And Pete, you're going to talk to us about that.
Yeah. And so I asked Todd to send out AMNIP, so I hope you guys all read that.
It's riveting.
And I'll try to make it very user-friendly. And so back in 2017, Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association, again, our partners, were involved with helping develop policy related to how distributed energy resources connect to municipal systems. And there's a set of rules that we tried to follow. We adopted those in 2017, and that had an impact on everybody that wanted to connect either a wind or a solar or any type of renewable energy or any type of generation or whatever the case would be. It's basically somebody producing power, putting it onto our system, and then there's a payment for that and or a process to connect. We still have a large public population that we're trying to protect, and so those rules were adopted mostly by the Minnesota Public Utilities Council so that there would be a standardized form. A lot of different variations became adopted or were adopted. And so what happened was the same solar company that may hook up a resident in St. Peter would go to Rochester or Owatonna or any of our SIMPA members or any municipal in Minnesota and have a different set of rules, but they might be slightly tweaked based on how your system operated. What we're trying to do here is MMUA worked very hard with state statutes, and a lot of the people that were interested in making this a common grounds for connection, and so that everybody would be protected. That happened, and state statutes were adopted in 216B.164. And so really it just lays out the general rights and responsibilities of the utilities and the customers regarding connection of distributed energy sources to the city's electrical system. And so our goal was, we wanted to make it more user-friendly and have the same set of rules that everybody else has. And so what we're asking tonight is that we will take our entire policy off of the website at the end of the year. We'll use that policy through the end of this year. January 1, we will implement the new policy as adopted, and it won't be too much of a change for everybody, but the rules kind of all fit together. And so our goal with that is, and the major changes that we're going to see would be a reduction from 4 schedules to 3 schedules. So think of it this way. We have 3 main classes of customers, residential, commercial, and industrial. And underneath that, we have about 16 different rate classifications that we use. We're not really talking about the rates here, we're just talking about the classifications. And so for each classification now, we will come up with an average retail energy rate for those classifications to simplify what the customer can expect for a payback when they come in to connect to our system with us. Well, most likely it's going to be solar in St. Peter, but for whatever system they have that regenerates. And so the biggest issue that we saw in the previous 5 years was what average retail energy rate are you using and how do you calculate that? Now in each one of these areas there is a standardized formula. Our finance crew will figure that out on an annual basis. We'll bring that back for adoption. Council will say, here's our rate for the year based on the formula, and off we go. Everybody will have it and we'll move forward. Really a better definition of what avoided costs are. So as these systems get larger, and these are for systems above 40 kW, which is a pretty good size panel. If you consider the panel that's at Public Works is a 4, it'd be 10 times what that size is. And so anything above that, they have what is called avoided cost. Avoided cost is just simply the definition of transmission cost to get it here. And so they get a cost for that. And so we'll identify that through SIMPA and through our rate schedule, and we'll make that known. And then Part G really states the utility's intent to refuse connection to third parties. Minnesota's unique in that we have a territory. We work with the PUC and other electric providers, and everybody has a service territory. You know, we've negotiated expansion of our territory in the past. It comes at a cost, but there is no third-party sales, meaning that if Brad decided he wanted to sell solar in St. Peter, he couldn't come into our territory and sell to our customers. We have a protected territory, and that's for the betterment of the utility and keeping costs simple and cheaper for all of our customers. And then the improved Minnesota interconnection process. And so with that, our goal would be to, if everything works out tonight, have you approve both resolutions. Resolution number 1, the first resolution is basically the adoption of the rules and the policy that allows us to work with our customers in the future to make that happen. And staff, of course, recommends approval of the resolution. The second is to identify that the utility will track and the number of connections, the type of cost, and report that back, all of our DER activities to the city council here. In the past, it was some public utility council we reported to, some city council and general workshop reports. And so we will now have that set up so we report to you guys and you will monitor that and we will process that. Staff recommends approval of both resolutions, and I'm open for questions.
Questions for Pete? Brad?
So will existing contracts, will existing DER systems, will those have to sign a new contract, or will those just roll over into the new system?
We will contact the existing people and ask them how they would like to proceed. So
Okay.
annually, we review
Yep.
that with the customers that we have.
And so but overall, it'll still be the same net metering with the choice of either average retail rate or rollover credits?
Rollover credits.
Okay, and so, and really the big change for them will be just the calculation of the average
Yep.
retail rate?
Yep.
Okay. Then I would just say for clarification, people are wondering, like the 40 kilowatt system that Pete referenced, I myself have a 5.3 kilowatt system that generates about, well, in 2021 did about 91% of the power for my house. So a 40 kilowatt system is well beyond anything an average homeowner would ever use, so.
Additional questions? Carrie?
So in order to comply with the statute, you really have to adopt these standardized rules, and is that what most cities are moving to now?
They are. They're moving to a standardized formula so that it puts the companies that are selling solar on the same plane, so that you can't say, oh, I don't like how your system is, you've got to do this and this. It really spells it out and just says nicely, here's what you need to do. If you check these 3 boxes, you're good to go.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Hearing no further questions or discussion, we're going to take the first resolution on page 147. That resolution calls for adopting of the City of St. Peter rules governing the interconnection of cogeneration and small power production facilities. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sherrstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ray.
Aye.
The first resolution is approved. The second resolution on page 149 calls for approving an updated cogeneration and small power production tariff for the city of St. Peter. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bushman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Sherrstrom.
Aye.
That resolution is approved as well. Thank you very much, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Next up, adoption of a resolution approving a temporary liquor license.
Mayor and members, as you know, licenses that are new come before you as a separate agenda item. Renewals come under your consent agenda. This is a new one for the St. Peter Casota Dollars for Scholars. They have an event on October 29th at the Nicollet County Fairground, for which they're looking to do temporary on-sale liquor licensing. The appropriate background check has been done, and from a staff perspective, we still see no reason to withhold a license for this event and activity. The resolution is included on page 151.
Questions for Todd? Hearing no questions, the resolution on page 155 calls for approving a temporary on-sale license application. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Sherrstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Bushman.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We will move on to reports. I don't have anything to report tonight. Todd?
Mayor members, I have a couple that I have on the list. The first of which is some of you, well, I think all of you are aware that the annual Rita meeting, which is the Regional Economic Development Group, had their annual meeting here in St. Peter. They've traditionally had it in St. Peter about this time of year, and I know a couple of you went. It's a wonderful opportunity to visit with leaders from throughout the region on important issues related to economic development. And I just want to get out of the way, and if any of the council members that attended have a comment about it, it might be a great time to share that information.
So the Rita annual meeting was last Wednesday, and it's always a pleasure to be able to host in St. Peter. Lots of folks from around the region come to attend the meeting to hear about Rita activities and activities of Greater Mankato growth. So Rita historically has kind of focused on attracting business and industry to our area and business retention. But in the report, it talked about kind of shifting gears to talent development or allocating resources towards talent development, and that's such an important aspect of economic development right now, as well as resident recruitment. And so the event was very well attended. We had several members from St. Peter, Mayor, Councilmember DeVos, member of our EDA, Ayan Omar, attend, and then Ben Baker, our Community Development Director. And then also representatives, business representatives, elected officials, city staff, county staff from Nicollet County, Blue Earth County, Eagle Lake, Lake Crystal, North Mankato, and Mankato, as well as St. Peter. So it was a great night, and we also got to hear from young professionals as well. That panel was really interesting. So it was very well attended and a great and well organized night. Thank you.
I'd offer if anyone else that went had any other comments that they'd like to share. Putting you on the spot, sorry about that.
No, Carrie, you were the co-chair of the
Vice Chair
Vice Chair.
of Rita. So I gave some remarks about the activities of Rita and Greater Mankato growth.
Well, thanks for representing St. Peter on Rita. There's a lot more that council members do besides some of our local city boards and commissions. There's a lot to do regionally, and so thanks for doing that work.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the last one that I have is just to remind members that we have a joint city council and school board meeting scheduled for October 5th here in the governor's room, so watch for some more information for that. As you know, with COVID, that kind of was put by the wayside. prior to COVID, we had about yearly, sometimes twice a year, depending on some of the issues. Our goal is certainly to get back to once, maybe twice a year. It's a wonderful event for you to share common thoughts and ideas about the community and discuss issues that you are partners with the city council. You have a liaison committee that helps set that agenda, which is meeting later this week, so the agenda isn't out yet, but watch for that. It'll be coming out, and I would encourage you to attend. It's a great opportunity to get together with those other elected officials and talk about things that are important in the community. Madam Mayor, that's all that I have for reports for you for tonight.
Anything else? Brad?
I'd just like to talk about our commissions. We're very lucky to have citizens who sign up for these. We have 2 city council members on each, which means the bulk of every commission is made up of St. Peter citizens. Recently, we've had 2 rather contentious meetings for planning and zoning and the Board of Zoning Appeals. And Andy Davis, as chair of planning and zoning, also ended up chairing the Board of Zoning Appeals Commission. He kept, overall, he was able to bring the meetings back in and keep them on track. And I would just say we should thank our citizens, and especially thank Andy for the time he served and serving as chair, particularly through those meetings. So,
Thank you. Any other comments or announcements? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.